If you want to be a better athlete, look at your brain and say, I need to have a better brain. And the paper I wrote with Paul Larson talked about the merging of this overfat pandemic in the world. And runners have a high prevalence of overfat. Just races are full of people who have excess body fat. The new paper takes the overfat pandemic and the fact that this excess body fat problem produces inflammatory chemicals throughout the body. Those inflammatory chemicals shrink the brain, literally. The brain gets shrunk. And when the brain volume diminishes, we have an unhealthy brain. Hi, I'm Dr. Phil Maffetone, and I'm a renegade.
Imagine a time before heart rate straps were mainstream, before Zone 2 became the darling of every endurance influencer, and when the idea of training slow to race fast sounded crazy. In the early 1980s, one man quietly turned the entire world of endurance performance on its head, and almost nobody noticed at the time. Dr. Phil Maffetone returns for his second appearance on the podcast. The pioneer in biofeedback and holistic health, Phil has spent decades working one-on-one with world-class athletes, Olympians, professionals, and everyday runners. His weapon of choice? A simple heart rate formula, 180 minus your age, plus or minus a few beats for a personalized maximum heart rate to train at. That puts you in the position to stay healthy and advance your running. Train below it, and you'll build an aerobic engine the size of a freight train and watch speed, fat burning, and your injury resistance skyrocket. No suffering necessary, just patience and precision. They call it the MAF method, maximum aerobic function. And for 40 years, it's been the operating system for everyone who's ever quietly crushed a marathon, an ultra, or a century ride, while the lactate threshold crowd was busy blowing up at mile 20. Dr. Maffetone is still pushing the envelope. His brand new paper takes everything we thought we knew about aerobic development, fat oxidation, and long-term metabolic health and flips the script yet again with fresh data that'll make even the most skeptical exercise physiologist sit up and pay attention. Dr. Maffetone drops a truth bomb. Processed foods and sugar aren't just wrecking your metabolism, they're quietly hijacking the athlete's most powerful organ, the brain, lighting up chronic inflammation and killing performance from the inside out. Because here's the secret he's been screaming for decades. The brain isn't riding shotgun, it's the driver. Fuel it with the right food and true aerobic development, and everything else, your legs, your lungs, your heart, finally falls into line. So buckle up. Today, the musician of MAF, the man who wrote the music of low heart rate training and who taught a generation how to run, ride, and live slower so they could go faster and farther than they've ever imagined. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Phil Maffetone. Welcome to the RUNEGADE Podcast. Each episode, we explore what it means to be a runner, a trail runner, a hiker, a power walker, with the greatest guests that are out there. And today, we have Dr. Phil Maffetone making his second appearance on the RUNEGADE.
It's always great when people want to come back, right, and talk to us. So definitely looking forward to this conversation.
It's very surprising, Mark, when they want to come back and talk to us. And we're happy that you're listening. RUNEGADE is proud to be sponsored by Thrive Protein. We love sharing what works for us. Power your runs and fuel your endurance with Thrive Protein, the premier plant-based supplement brand crafted for endurance athletes. They offer high-quality vegan protein powders, whey, super greens, and electrolytes and creatine. Thrive's clean Ontario-made products fuel your body with natural ingredients with no artificial fillers. Designed to boost recovery, enhance endurance, and keep you strong on the trails, the roads, or wherever your endurance adventure takes you. Thrive is perfect for every athlete chasing their big goals. Visit thriveprotein.ca and use the code RUNEGADE for 20% off your order. Thrive Protein. Fuel your relentless pursuit of adventure.
Knock,
Hey,
knock,
Dr. Phil.
knocking.
Knock, knock, knock. How are you doing? Good to see you
Heaven's
again.
Door. Great. How are you?
Doing
Good
great,
to
thanks.
see you.
It's great to see you again. Great to see you. I got a photo last night. Floris Gearman texted me. He's like, look who got a copy of my book. And he had you at the book. He was like, had a big heart emoji.
Yeah. Great book. If you haven't seen it, just, the guy's amazing. He's done a lot of work, and I knew Flores from not the beginning, but from early on. And I wrote a article, I guess, several years ago, plotting out his progress and heart rate changes and relative competitive times, and it was nothing that I hadn't seen before, but it was really a great case study on how it could work.
How it could work, his progression, and then the fire and the passion that it lit inside of him to interview so many guests and then knit it all together with his podcast. And the book is fantastic. I love how it's laid out because it's got the actionable stories, his real life experiences, and like lessons from the experts like yourself, Dr. Maffetone.
It's great. And I think it'll do well, and I think it will help a lot of people. That's the idea that he had, is that, he wanted to share his experiences and his progress and, his improved competition in all his racing, and he wanted to share that with other people and in hopes of helping them, like he has progressed. So that's kind of the sharing thing is really, you guys are doing that with these podcasts, and we had a great podcast. I guess it was almost a year ago. I don't remember, but
it was, yes. It was right around this
time. We talked
time
about music, but we linked the music up with the fact that humans had this rhythmicity that is a big part of running, and that runners who had more rhythm performed better. And if you just watch a race, when the lead runners come through the finish line, they're the most rhythmic people in the race in terms of their gait and their movements, and as the race went on, as time went on, and more people started coming in, you didn't see that rhythmic action in their gaits. People were kind of struggling, and that's something we humans have developed and developed beginning 1.8 million years ago. Homo sapiens developed the ability to hunt, which we doubled our brain size when humans began hunting, and because of the protein intake, and but without that increased brain function, we couldn't be so efficient as hunters, because we learned to do things. Our brains figured things out. Like, we don't have spears and guns yet. So, hey, what are we going to do? Well, why don't we just chase animals and exhaust them, run after them relatively slow, even if they're sprinters. Humans learned to chase animals to the point where the animal galloped, and humans had this great cooling mechanism called sweating, and animals, of course, don't. They have to pant, and humans figured out that if they ran fast enough where the animal had to galloping, you can't pant when you're galloping. So that exhausted the animals, and humans lived happily ever after until recently.
Until recently. Exactly. It's an amazing story, and it's the history of our evolution, right? Your observation from your experience, Dr. Phil, where do you think runners have got it wrong, maybe unintentionally have gotten it wrong with their racing and training and their life?
That's simple. Marketing. Greedy people wanting to sell you products. you know, I'm trying to think of his name now. I'm not good with names. Bob and James. No, Mark and Tom. um, um, but the guy, the co-founder of Nike, who developed the shoes and was a coach at Oregon, famous
Was that
coach.
Bill Bowerman?
Bill
Wasn't it?
Bowerman.
Was that?
Yep.
Yes.
Bill said it's not the runner who trains hard that succeeds. It's the runner who thinks. And that's a paraphrase, but it's a great quote. And unfortunately, the companies in marketing their products, whether they be shoes or food, or systems, books, whatever, that marketing sways us to do things that are unnatural, like run with shoes that have a heel on them, or eat processed carbohydrates, because we're told, which is counter to biology, that we're a glucose-based animal. We need a lot of glucose. Therefore, the more glucose we consume, the faster we're going to run. That's how it's interpreted. Sadly, it doesn't work that way, obviously. Because another thing humans developed way back when was this dual mechanism for energy production. So we do use glucose for energy, but we are a fat-burning animal that allows us to run long distance at really moderate and even high paces. Fast running on the track, will result in more and more glucose used for energy. But we still need to use fat for energy to support that whole mechanism. Otherwise, we don't run as well, or we don't run as fast.
And for our new listeners dialing in and maybe just new to running, Dr. Maffetone, you brought to light this idea of building a huge aerobic base by healthy training, balancing stress and rest. And it was all based on a premise of ensuring that you stay in a moderate or a fat-burning zone. And I think you coined the term the MAF method, the Maffetone method. Could you explain maybe in a few minutes of the premise of the low heart rate training and the benefits that it actually give to a new runner or all runners?
Yeah, MAF means maximum aerobic function, and that's what humans do really well. We have maximum aerobic function if we develop it. The aerobic system, we hear about the digestive system and the hormonal system and muscles and bones, those systems. But we often don't hear about the aerobic system, which includes the ability to burn a large amount of body fat for energy. Even the leanest of us can run hundreds of miles on the amount of stored fat we have in our body right now. The aerobic system includes those so-called slow twitch muscles. That doesn't mean you run slow. It means you develop those muscles that allow you to run faster and faster over time. And that aerobic system, those aerobic muscles, the fat burning process is an important part of us being healthy. And when we're healthy, we don't get injured as much. We have more fun when we run, when we compete. I mean, that's the idea, right? We've got to have fun along the way as well. But we get better and better, and we get better with age, despite the social commentary that, when we hit 30 or 40, we're over the hill. Uh, Actually, our brains can get better and better with time. Our bodies can slow down, sure, but our brain, we can have the best brain on the day we die if we add the right ingredients in terms of exercise and nutrition and the aerobic system, those aerobic muscles that are intertwined with anaerobic muscles in the body. They stimulate the brain significantly. So if we don't develop the aerobic system, we don't have as much endurance. We don't burn as much fat, so we store too much of it. And our brain doesn't benefit from exercise as much as if we did use that aerobic system.
I had a thought then too. So we were talking about new runners and learning about the math method. Now, you mentioned earlier how in certain races, when you see some of the later people coming through, they just don't have that rhythm. How would you explain, or what advice would you give to a new runner to work on that rhythm early on in their process of when they're finding running? Is there something that would be a hack or just a way that they can incorporate it and keep it top of mind as they're starting their running journey?
Yeah, there are no hacks. We can use logic.
Except two. There's two right here. Sorry.
We can use logic and intelligence, experience to make ourselves healthier and more fit, be better runners, be healthier humans, be happier, have more fun, etc., etc. There's no shortcuts, but I'll tell you, it's really easy. This is not difficult stuff. So to answer your question, I spent my career watching athletes, and I've worked in all sports. So running was only one of them, but running is the foundation of all sports, even in events like motorsports. I had these great race car drivers training by running. Because their aerobic system was necessary in a race, especially in the longer races. Their brain needed support, and that was going to help, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things I did was watch runners. That was a big part of the assessment process that I went through. I would watch a runner on the track. I'd watch them in a race. And I would see that I'd watch them on a treadmill, and I realized that treadmills are unnatural. So let's not use the treadmill because we get an error because the brain is very aware that we're not going anywhere. We're really running in place. So I took everything outdoors, which was really, really nice, except in the winter. But that's what we did because I needed to see the movement of these athletes, and I needed to see the movement at different levels of intensity, very low heart rates, warming up. As the heart rate got higher, I would watch their gait, and as it got really high, I'd see, some relatively minor irregularities, but all very important stuff. And in the process of doing that, you see the rhythm that they have, their natural rhythm. Now, unfortunately, because of our distorted society, our marketing was and is a big part of that. I guess I could say we think too much about running. How do you run? Well, let's see. I'm going to put my right foot in front of my left. Yeah, and then I'm going to swing my left, No. Come on, we're hardwired for that. Just run. Now, as soon as you put on shoes that don't fit or shoes that are too thick, we distort the brain, which then cannot manage our balance mechanism and our gait. So we lose rhythm, we lose balance in the muscles, and so forth. And one of the things people can do to test this, do they have good rhythm? It's really simple. Get your phone, and there's a free app you can get that's a metronome. Maybe you have a metronome at home.
Somewhere around here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people have metronomes in their closet. I met somebody who had I thought it was like the very first metronome ever, the manual ones that, it was like, I think from the late 1800s. It was just this beautiful thing, and it worked incredibly well. But everybody has them, but if not, get an iPhone. It's a free app, and put it at, I don't know, 80 beats a minute, and walk in place. Just walk in place, and make sure your feet land on each beat perfectly. There should be a perfect, your feet are keeping the beat. It's like dancing. And then bring it up to 90, and then bring it up to 100, and then start jogging in place to the beat. And if you can do that really well, go outside and start walking to the beat, increase the cadence, and start jogging slow to the beat, and now start jogging a little faster. And over time, over 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, many people find that they lose that cadence. They lose the ability to hit the ground every time they hear the beat, because they don't have enough of the rhythm we're talking about. And I'd say 30 to 40% of the people are in that category. And what's happening is the cerebellum back here in the brain, there's other parts of the brain involved, obviously the motor cortex, which sends information to the muscles, but it can only send the information based on what the cerebellum is telling it to do. And if that's all screwed up, then our gait is irregular, maybe just a minor amount, but there's some really uncoordinated runners out there. And I'm not making fun of people. I'm just saying this is a serious rhythmic problem that affects the gait, and that puts stress on the joints, stress on the muscles, and it takes more energy to get from point A to point B. Obviously, you're not going to have a good race if that's your situation. So the therapy for that problem is to just start. Many people can start in their home because they're just going to walk in place or jog in place. And once they can do that, then they can go outside, and eventually you should be able to do your whole run as, your cadence is going to increase, but there should be a beat by beat relationship. Every time your foot hits the ground, you should hear that beat, and that will retrain the cerebellum to tell the motor cortex to contract the muscles right at this point.
Mm-hmm. So even working through an injury, then trying to get back into that appropriate cadence, that rhythm, is really probably one of the best things you can do. Or something a great thing you can do, I guess, in order to
yeah. And that's called biofeedback. That's a very simple biofeedback therapy that I developed early in my career, and sometimes you see it called marching, because we use it with kids, and we make a game out of it, and it's a marching game, but it's a very valuable thing for runners, and if you're a dedicated runner and you want to get better, at least test yourself, make sure that's not a problem, and if it is, you know what to do now.
Well, it just makes you wonder how many people you see running by that aren't listening to music. They're listening just to a metronome and just doing that for, 5-10.
I wish. I was out yesterday, I think, or the day before, and I try to go into areas where there isn't anybody, because I can't help looking at other runners or walkers or cyclists and analyze them. But I like to be kind of free and out in the middle of nowhere. And this and this person was, holding a phone and talking with the speaker on, and having this intense conversation. It was like, please don't do that.
I just think that this could just lead into some great math playlists where you have, different artists at different, for different songs. If you're running at, 80 beats per minute, you have, a string of songs there, 100, 120. You could have something great going on there, right?
Yeah, I do have a playlist on my website for aerobic workouts. I think I have it's like a warm up, cool down playlist, an aerobic workout playlist, an anaerobic workout playlist. And the myth about music and running is that, and you go to a gym and that's all you hear, this obnoxious, loud, fast music. The myth is that if you play fast music, you'll go faster. Well, if you're not able to go faster, you're going to screw yourself up. So find this is an individual thing. We're all uniquely different, and we need to match our training with our health and fitness. And as we build our fitness and we build our health, we can do more. We can go faster and perform.
Runners, your gear is holding you back. If you're struggling with chafing, useless pockets, and materials that feel too technical and just don't keep up with your training, let me introduce you to Path Projects, offering a complete line of gear and apparel built by runners, for runners, and today's modern endurance athletes that want to perform, train hard, and look damn good doing it. Say goodbye to chafing with Path's independent suspension design. They've separated the baseliner from the short, virtually eliminating all the rubbing and movement that traditional running shorts have. A simple design feature that makes all the difference. Less movement plus performance fabrics equals no burn, no chafing, no hot shower screams. My all-time Path favorite, their best-selling Graves PX running short built with Toray Prime Flex has a great feel while being extremely durable and has an unbelievable amount of storage. I've been able to carry gels, my iPhone, my car keys, and even hang a clip-on water bottle off the waist. And they're built to last. Path's Tahoe CL baseliners offer an all-season performance. The cool light mesh is for the extremists. A bird's eye mesh fabric that is ultra light, super wicking, and insanely breathable. Comfort means everything. And they offer personalized performance. With Path baseliners, you have the choice of 2 fabrics in 4 lengths, 3, 5, 8-inch, and full length, which allows you to dial in a baseliner based on the current weather condition and your personal preference. And with the Path's Graves PX shorts, you have the choice of 2 fits, classic and relax, and 2 lengths, which give you the flexibility to match your short to the effort. With the right gear from Path, you can focus on your effort and getting after it. Check them out, pathprojects.com, and you can use the code TRP10 for 10% off your order for a limited time. And Dr. Maffetone, when I first got into the low heart rate training, I thought it was all about just the low heart rate training. I used your formula to figure out my zone, the maximum heart rate I needed to train at, and I made sure I was below that. And I listened to and I read what you shared about other things, managing stress. But the one thing I didn't really truly appreciate was the overall brain's role in running, in health, and in life. I came across your recent paper here where you're talking about how refined carbohydrates are fueling the overfat pandemic and the negative consequences that these refined carbohydrates are having on us, our brains, our health, our bodies, our minds. What's the thesis of your paper? And maybe you can help us describe this overfat pandemic that you're seeing.
Yeah, I've written a lot about overfat as a condition, which is excess body fat that impairs health and fitness, and it doesn't take a lot of fat to do that. And so when we have too much fat, it means we're not burning enough fat for energy, so our aerobic system is not developing well. And when we have too much body fat, wherever it is, we produce inflammatory chemicals that circulate throughout the body. And those inflammatory chemicals produce inflammation. I mean, you look at all the running injuries out there, most of them are inflammatory related. And of course, if you have excess body fat, you're going to have most likely more body weight. And it doesn't take much body weight added to slow you down in a race, especially in a longer event, even training, because again, you're trying to run with more weight. Imagine carrying a 10-pound weight during your run. It really contributes to slowing you down. It's using more energy to get from point A to point B. You want to use less energy to get from point A to point B. So, I've always, I guess in the beginning of my career, I understood the brain, and I assumed everyone else did, and that was a big mistake I made. and I started saying, you as a runner, the most important part of your body is your brain. And they'd say, what? What about the muscles? What about the, return energy of the Achilles tendon? What about the, glucose use? And, the brain regulates all of that. Everything we've talked about up until now, the fat sugar mix, the rhythmicity, is regulated by the brain. And so if you want to be a better athlete, look at your brain and say, I need to have a better brain. And the paper I wrote with Paul Larson talked about the merging of this overfat pandemic in the world. I mean, I did a study before COVID. It's worse now, but I did a study showing that 91% of American adults are overfat. That's a serious problem. And if you don't think runners have a high prevalence of overfat, just look and see who's passing you, or who's in the races. The races are full of people who have excess body fat. It's important to recognize, and it's especially important to not say, well, I accept my excess body fat. That's psychobabble. Sorry. That's like saying I accept being unhealthy. I accept being a slow sloth as a runner, and I'm not going to work on getting better. Okay, go over there. I don't need to talk to you. But the current paper, the new paper, takes the overfat pandemic and the fact that this excess body fat problem produces inflammatory chemicals throughout the body. Those inflammatory chemicals shrink the brain, literally. The brain gets shrunk. And when the brain volume diminishes, we have an unhealthy brain. We can't function on all and any level of brain function, managing our energy, controlling muscle balance, contracting, relaxing muscles, balance in general, foot function, everything. And we came up with the fact that it seems about 80% of the world has an unhealthy brain. That's a scary number. And what I was trying to do was relate that to society. Our society is screwed up because we have, so many unhealthy brains trying to make it work better. And society is screwed up, and so is our planet, because it takes so much more energy and waste to produce the things that cause the overfat pandemic to begin with, which is refined carbohydrates, including sugar. So it's refined carbohydrates causing overfat, causing inflammatory states in the body, which reduces brain function. Pretty simple.
So how do we recover from this? What would be the baby steps?
Well, there's really only one baby step. This is the amazing part of it. And I early in my career, I would sit down with these runners. I started my career. I had a clinic in the New York City area, and it was the running boom. And so I saw a lot of runners who were injured. And so I remember sitting down with a particular runner. I had done an evaluation. I had watched them run outside. I had looked at their training history, their racing history, all the blood tests, whatever was necessary to come to a conclusion that, here's what you need to do. Well, I made a mistake. My mistake was I would spend the next hour saying, okay, here's what you do. You buy these kinds of shoes. You can do that by going in the store, trying on the size you think you need, and then trying on a bigger size, and blah, blah, blah. And then, get these foods, but avoid those foods. Train this way, do this first, eventually, then moderate your stress. You got physical stresses, you got biochem, and I would babble on and on for an hour about all these things that this runner needed to do to get better. And then I'd never see them again because they were overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Okay, did he tell me what to do? I can't even remember. So the answer, the baby step that we need to take is get rid of refined carbohydrates and sugar. They're the same thing. When we, most carbohydrate products on the market today are refined. Don't be swayed by whole grain and natural and all the scams they have on the labels, and companies are allowed to do this, and then the FDA steps in, or whatever your government agency says about labeling laws. You can't do this. Now they're ready to do something else that's the same kind of scam, just using different words that are now legal. When we consume refined carbohydrates in terms of like flour, as soon as we eat them, they turn to sugar. So when we have a bowl of pasta, when we have a toast for breakfast, that corn muffin, even that whole grain fiber, whatever muffin, they're refined carbohydrate and they turn to sugar. We might as well have 6 or 8 teaspoons of sugar because that's what we're eating. So that's the baby step. It doesn't get more simple, right? Stop eating refined carbohydrates, period. And that will turn you into a better runner within a couple of days. You may not be able to measure it, but your metabolism will change. You'll start burning more fat. Your muscles will work better. Again, it'll be very subtle in the beginning. If I saw you running 2 days after you stopped eating sugar, I might see the gait change, the improvement. But certainly after a week or two, you're a new person. And I developed something called the 2-week test. Not for me, but for the person to experience what it's like to be a human being without the refined carbohydrate in their system, screwing up their brains, screwing up their body. And after 2 weeks, many of them are amazingly, they're just amazed how much more energy they have. They sleep better, hormone balance, they eliminate hunger. And if you check your MAF test, which we haven't talked about, but you guys know what that is, where you monitor your heart rate to see how fast you can run at that aerobic heart rate. Some people are going to run a minute faster a mile after 2 weeks.
Just from the better burning, the better, or developing the fat burning system.
Burning more fat, yeah, and improving
fat.
brain function, which improves muscle function, etc. It's like a domino effect. You got to start. You got to push that first domino, and it's like a baby step. You just push that first domino, and it helps this, and then it helps that, and then it helps that, and then it helps. And you know, when you help your brain, everything is going to improve.
Oh, absolutely.
And Dr. Maffetone, I tried the 2-week test last month. So I think I was telling you I'm going to give it a shot. So for 2 weeks, absolutely, I cut out all that refined sugar. I saw that even though I was lower carb before, I was sneaking in those cookies and I was sneaking in those snacks every now and then. So I cut that out. What I saw the first, let's say 3 or 4 days, I could tell I was really craving. I wanted sugar. I could tell. And the first few runs felt a little bit more difficult just because I wasn't feeling that overall wellness. But by the second week, the cravings were gone. I wasn't snacking. I was eating healthy snacks if I wanted to have a snack. And I noticed, because we wear our watches, my first week, my HRV plummeted, so it decreased. So my body must have been experiencing something. That second week, my HRV shot up to a level that I never saw on my watch before. And then I snuck in a little bit more carbs last week because I was getting ready for the JFK, so I just didn't want to go too lower carb for the run. And I noticed my HRV dropped again. So in 1 month, by eating carbs, I had a lower HRV. I got rid of the carbs, it increased, and when I snuck them back in, it decreased. So experiment of one, but I could see the effect it was having on my body, but I was also trying to see the effect it would be having on my brain. Because that's what I was saying, like maybe I was underestimating this. So for the listeners and the runners who are listening, if they love their sugar and they say, well, it helps me perform better, what are they trending towards? Like what's the end result? In your paper, you talk about all the, like the brain issues, the conditions that we're trending towards, Alzheimer's, and it all relates to that smaller hippocampus, correct? So
it relates to, you could look at any area of the brain and write a whole paper on how diet affects that in an adverse way. So it's really, I think one of the things you're alluding to is that sugar addiction is a real problem, and
absolutely,
we have a hard time not eating it, and we sneak things in, rationalizing that things like the famous saying, everything in moderation, and I say, well, how about tobacco? Is 1 cigarette a day moderation? 3 cigarettes a week? How about heroin? Once a week, maybe? So moderation doesn't apply to toxic food and other habits. This stuff is toxic, and there's no question about it. And the experiment goes into tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who have done this. The problem is we're bombarded by the media, which is on board because they are sponsored by a lot of these junk food companies. And so when you look at a running magazine or listen to a show sponsored by, people you don't want to have as sponsors, you're gonna be fed that information, and eventually you think, well, okay, I guess a 1 cookie or 2 cookies here and there, 3 cookies, 4 cookies, maybe 5 cookies. Well, I'll run more tomorrow morning and burn it off. No, it doesn't work that way. you've screwed yourself up. Now you've got to recover and start all over.
And what I find in my current situation is that I've got young kids here, right? So there are the sweets around. There's the Halloween candy that lingers for 6 months of the year that we munch away on, and that. So really comes down to discipline too, with what you're putting in, right? And having those alternatives, those healthy options in the fridge. So when you are feeling that craving, you jump over and grab some celery or something else, right? So.
Yeah. But and speaking of kids, it's an opportunity to teach kids about health and junk food. Not easy because they are blasted directly and indirectly by these same companies. It's like the tobacco industry. The sugar industry has followed just what the tobacco industry has done successfully, and they're equally successful. But what happens when we get rid of the refined carbohydrates, we feel better. Our metabolism improves. We start burning more fat and rely less on sugar, so we don't get the cravings, the binges, the hunger as much. But as our metabolism improves, and our running gets better and better, our nutritional needs calorically come down. So now, and I was talking to Tim Noakes about this recently on a podcast. How many calories less do we need to consume now that we're so efficient? And it could be 30%. It's certainly, I've seen 25%. Typically, where we don't need to consume this many calories, we need to consume 25-30% less calories because we're not eating junk food, we're not eating refined carbohydrates, and yet we're even more energetic. We can run better, we can think better, our guts better, on and on.
Absolutely. It is like the cravings, right? So from my personal experience, I found the thing I craved the most, Dr. Maffetone, is I wanted apples. I wanted apples. And so for the 2-week test, I was very cognizant of, I'm going to give this a shot because I wanted to see the benefits. Like, can I measurably or noticeably feel different without any of these carbohydrates, either if they're natural or the refined? But I was craving those apples. And then after the 2 weeks test, I snuck in an apple, but you notice it right away. It's like, how sugary these apples. And then for me, it was like, well, I don't have to buy that massive apple. I could buy the smaller apple that is a little bit more sour than the sweet one. It's just interesting.
Yeah, we change. We become more intuitive, more instinctual, like every other animal on Earth. We know what to eat at some point. We don't know what to eat. People don't know what to eat now. They're told what to eat, and they go out and they buy it. So we change. Our brain changes. Our taste buds change, which are part of the brain mechanism. And so, as time goes on, you notice even a little bit of sweetener in something like tomato sauce. Well, tomato sauce isn't sweet. Well, wait a minute. How did your grandmother, what is the traditional recipe for tomato sauce? You add sugar.
Mm-hmm. Big cup of sugar.
I mean, that's just stupid. Come on. I'm sorry. But we notice that taste after a while because we've changed our taste buds. And this is why kids don't eat vegetables, because their sweet tooth, their sweet sensation in the taste buds is so amplified that unless they get that, things taste really bad, like broccoli. And adults have this problem too. But it's, and the question is, can we eat apples? And like you said, these massive apples they have now are genetically produced to be bigger, but also really sweet. And if that that question is answered by saying, if you're insulin resistant, which you can tell because if you're over fat, you're insulin resistant. If you're insulin resistant, you cannot eat a lot of natural carbohydrates either. So what are we left with? We're left with how humans ate for, 2 million years. Protein foods, meats and eggs, eventually cheese, and vegetables. Nuts and seeds as well. And healthy fats, of course, are important, but protein's important. Protein, of all the sports, runners have a very high need for protein because we're upright and we're running, and that gravity stress on our whole body causes all of our muscles to contract and relax. So we're using all our muscles. Don't think we're a sport of leg muscles only. We use everything, including our neck muscles and of course our foot muscles, but everything is used, and as a result that muscle turnover involves getting more protein, getting more amino acids to repair, getting those muscles to recover from day to day, from week to week, from season to season. So it's really pretty simple.
I have to ask.
Cut the sugar, Mark. Cut the sugar out. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, now I want to know, Dr. Phil, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Well, I had I think I got up around 5:20. I haven't recovered from the brain paper I wrote. It took over a year. I lost some brain cells actually. And when I'm in a project like that, like writing a book, your subconscious mind, when you're sleeping, is thinking about what you wrote the previous day and how you're going to incorporate that. So you get up early in the morning with these thoughts in your head, and all of a sudden it's, I know how to make that transition from this paragraph to that paragraph. And you jump out of bed, you go to your computer, but anyway, so I'm still in that mode. But I got up around 5, made some coffee, and then essentially my breakfast was eggs, avocado, a whole avocado, cheese, and that's it.
Sounds like a great breakfast to me. That's something that I would love to have right now. Actually, after this chat, I might actually.
Well, you guys are you guys are so dedicated. Have you guys worked out today yet?
Not yet. I'm recovering from Saturday when I did the 50-mile race down in Boonesboro in West Virginia. Okay. So the muscles are still a little sore.
Yeah, I asked that facetiously because I know you're on the west coast of Canada, I think, and so
right by Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, you're only in, okay. So you're only 2 hours
for Eastern
from the
Standard Time. So.
Your Eastern Standard Time. Gosh, I'm thinking you're dedicated. You're getting up at like 4:30 in the morning.
No, we are. We're very dedicated.
Very dedicated. We still got up at that time. Yeah.
Okay. Todd, you have a Western Canadian accent.
Okay, I do a little bit. Well, you know what? We got the different dialects of the Canadian. That's right. With one aspect too is the more you see on social media nowadays, like we start to think about race day. So let's say you're a runner now. You've come across this podcast. You've come across Dr. Maffetone. You've become a low heart rate advocate. You're going to train and live and follow this methodology. But now it's race day. And you keep hearing everybody about you got to ingest those carbs, so many grams every hour to race really hard. And then you see these folks at the start of like the champions Is there a role for carbohydrates on race day and race day alone? Or what's your view on that?
There could be a role for a longer race, like a marathon, maybe a half marathon. But you have to prepare your body for the race first. That involves becoming a better fat burner so that you can use more fat in the race for energy. Therefore, you don't need as much carbohydrate drink during the race. And even the amount of Tim Noakes is going to have a paper coming out here anytime soon. It's just a great paper. And he's talking about in a marathon, all you need is about 10 grams of glucose, carbohydrate per hour for that race. You don't need it in the beginning because you're burning fat. And that little amount of glucose maintains your blood sugar. And I mean, this is a common sense thing, but the game is not how much glucose should I consume. You got to figure that out in your training. But 10 grams is a good number to use as a test. But the game is really to get your metabolism healthy so that during the race you're burning a lot of fat for energy, and therefore you don't need as much glucose.
It's the secret.
Yes.
You train to be a better fat burner so you don't need the glucose on race day. And I'm going to go on a limb here too. If you have to carry a lot of gels around, that's extra mass. So if you don't have to carry as many gels around, you're going to save a little bit of weight savings too. Yeah,
it sure is. You're right. And it also means that you don't have to, for some people, certainly the pros, you don't have to worry about, well, is my bottle going to be at this next station? And if it's not, what do I do?
Less to worry about.
Yeah. And one of the biggest problems that runners have are making changes on race day that they never intended on making. Here's a runner, plans on the race, gets the training in, feels good, gets to race day, wakes up in the morning, starts hearing other runners talking about this new carbo drink or, and then you decide, well, I'm not going to wear those shoes. I'm going to wear these shoes. And you have all these last minute things. I'm going to go out fast because if I go out fast, I'll be closer to the finish line. All these ridiculous things that you didn't plan on doing. In fact, you planned on the opposite. And your emotions, a lot of it's due to things you hear, you see on social media. And it just, there goes your race. So, we have that problem. But the foundation of running as a sport is to burn more fat, which you can only do when you build your aerobic system better. You'll be less injured. You'll have more energy. You'll have more energy every day. You'll have more energy in a race. You'll recover from your training and your racing better. I mean, and it's easy and doesn't cost you anymore.
And not only just your race day performance, but the mental clarity, the mental aspect of being able to be in the moment more, being able to, zoom in and have that critical thinking that you need to do. I don't know, being less forgetful and with things that we never used to forget. That's some of the aspects I saw too from lowering those carbohydrates.
The mental, the cognitive improvements you see in people are astounding, really. I had a very creative career clinically. I developed the 2-week test, the MAF test, the 180 formula, and all these other things, biofeedback techniques, manual biofeedback techniques for therapists, all kinds of very creative, and I never thought much about it. But when I became a musician, which was about 20 years ago, it helped me become more creative, and I was able to write better. I was able to think better. I was able to develop things better. And if I hadn't have become a musician, I would never have been able to never have been able to write this brain paper, because it required a huge amount of cognitive function. And so, it's all part of being healthy and fit, and having that aerobic system as a foundation is an essential part.
So, Dr. Phil, I know we're getting to the back part of our time together here, but what do you have on the go? What are you looking forward to I know we're getting at the back end of the year as well, but what's coming up for you in the next couple of months?
Well, that's a good question. I'm sort of, it's like running a marathon. You finish the marathon, you're really happy or whatever, and you have to recover. And it could take weeks or months to recover, actually. Writing, a project like I just finished, it takes recovery. And I've sort of been recovering. I've been writing some new songs, which I've been writing all along. It's so bizarre how the brain works. I'll be in the middle of a technical paragraph on, a neurological thing I'm trying to piece together for the paper. And all of a sudden, this song will come out of my brain. And it's not about the brain. It's not about neurology. It's about some weird, and I never understood what Neil Young said about songwriting. He said, when a song starts coming out, you have to excuse yourself. Otherwise, the song is gone. And I've learned to do that. So I stopped what I'm doing on the computer. I go over, pick up a guitar, write the song, which usually just takes a few minutes. But then my style of learning really came from the Beatles, from George Martin, and my producer, Rick Rubin, encourages the same thing, which is once you write a song, you never write another song like that. So everything you write is new. It's sort of new and improved. And for me, I write songs that I can't even play, sometimes can't even sing because of the jumps and the strange, just whatever. So I write the song in, 5-6 minutes. And then now I've got to spend an hour sometimes figuring out how to play it and sing it. But sometimes in some of the difficult songs, it could take the rest of the day. And then I get back to the writing. And so to answer your question, sorry, what am I doing? I'm thinking about different articles to write. The process of submitting a journal article for review and publication is so painful. They've made it so painful that I don't know if I want to do that. I've published a lot, and maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I don't want to lose these brain cells that I lost during this long paper I wrote. So I'm thinking of writing an article for a scientific magazine that'll be simple, that talks about this aerobic system as a foundation for all sports and all human endeavors, which I've never really done. I've kind of done that, but and then I still write about biofeedback for clinicians. I'm thinking of doing more of that, but my brain is sort of on free flow at the moment, asking what am I going to do next? And I'm waiting for something to just pull my brain a certain way. The music is always there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I've in the process of writing this paper, I've written enough songs for an album, and I may go down that route. Otherwise the songs get lost. And, so the answer to your question is I'm not sure yet.
Well, it sounds like there's still lots on the go anyway with, your passions, right? With the music, which is wonderful. So. Following
your passions is the advice that I have always given people, and they look at you funny and they say, well, don't you have to work yet and retire? And then you can, no, you work and you retire and you die. We don't want to do that. Figure it out, please.
Dr. Maffetone, we can't thank you enough. We always have such a great conversation. This conversation can go on for hours and hours because we jot down questions and we go off on a great tangent, and it's like, oh, this is even better than the questions we have. So we're going to have to get you back on in the future. And, if you record this album, we'll get you back on and we'll go through the music of the math method again.
Yes. Thank you. This is always fun. And now that I know you're in central Canada, I'll think differently of you.
Well,
there you go.
I think we appreciate that.
I think.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bell. This is.
And we thank you for listening to the Renegade Podcast. Each episode, we dare to practice the lost art of conversation to better understand this thing we call life and the human connection that we have with running and endurance sport. If you enjoy the Renegade Podcast, could we ask for a favor? Head on over to our YouTube and click subscribe. And like our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your engagement helps keep the Renegade Podcast growing and going. If you have a show idea, a comment, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, runegadepodcast@gmail.com. That's RUNEGADE podcast@gmail.com. We have a great list of guests coming up that we're looking forward to sharing another conversation with you. Head on over to our link tree, check out our sponsors, our friends of the podcast. We have great discount codes that, thanks to them, they're offering you, the Renegade listeners, to save some money on the best running gear, apparel, fuel, and nutrition. We thank you for listening. And remember, in a world of runners, be a renegade.